Afternoon. Kristen, take it away.
Thank you, UMass foul charge to number 23, CJ Anderson.
Yesterday, and Minnesota had a special Thanksgiving dinner, so I want to get you guys' perspective on their menu, and then obviously everyone at home, let us know what you think. All right, here's what Minnesota had for Thanksgiving on the road. Shrimp cocktail, turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cornbread, sweet potatoes, my personal favorite, cranberry sauce, and assorted holiday pies. Tim, I feel like you might have some thoughts on this. How did they do in terms of traditional Thanksgiving feast?
I think that's outstanding.
Right? Are they missing anything? Is there anything they didn't do?
What do we do for dessert, Kristen? I think that's going to be the key here.
We did assorted holiday pies, so I'm going to imagine there's some pecan. I'm going to say there's probably some pumpkin.
You can't go wrong with a little pumpkin. That's my personal favorite.
Pumpkin is mine. Chris, what do you think?
Tell you what, I was good yesterday with a pizza. I mean, that's what I had for my Thanksgiving meal. For those of you just joining us here on Facebook, 15 and a half minutes to play in the first half. Minnesota is out to a 6-0 lead. UMass 0 for 7 from the floor. Shrimp cocktail on Thanksgiving, that seems like more of a Christmas dish to me, but
a little bit of an odd appetizer, but you know.
We apologize for any technical issues that may have been having early on, but we seem to have those worked out. And thank you for joining us here on Facebook as Stadium brings you college basketball exclusively on Facebook here at the Barclays Center Classic, presented by Continental Tire. We are at LIU Brooklyn, just down the road from the Barclays Center due to a scheduling conflict. The first two games here to date being played at the Steinberg Wellness Center. Tomorrow we'll head over to the Barclays Center, the home of the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay, thank you.
All 6 points for Minnesota coming from Jordan Murphy. Big surprise, right? Averaging 24. Top 20 in the nation in points and in rebounds per game. UMass just cannot find the bottom of the net.
Murphy's been the difference. I mean, he has all the baskets, has been rebounding the ball, comes up with the steal there. And if I'm the Gophers, go to number 3 in goal. He wants it. He's the guy who's only come out here ready to play.
Lynch, who already has a block in this game, can't score. Only points of this whole game, and we're 5.5 minutes in, from Jordan Murphy, the two-time Big Ten Player of the Week to start the season.
You know, Chris, we talked about this early start, noon Eastern, college kids. I know that's when I was rolling out of bed a lot of days at Northwestern. How about at St. Ambrose? What was your wake-up time? Because there's really no excuse to come out and both teams to be this flat. 5 on the shot clock for Pipkins.
And Pipkins has the first bucket of the game for the UMass Minutemen. 5 minutes and 45 seconds into this game.
He's the only UMass player averaging in double figures. Came into this game averaging just over 22 points a game. He's going to have to be electrifying today if UMass is going to stay in this.
Mason misses on the three-point attempt. This is Carl Pierre, and oh boy, we've seen a few really bad passes from the Minutemen on their offensive side of the floor, and that was another way too hard. Let's see, Bakari Kanade checking in for Minnesota, big man number 21, the senior from Mali, and CJ Anderson taking a seat for UMass. It's a kid from Harlem, Isaiah Washington, making a homecoming here. And that's a turnover. Unique McLean.
Unique McLean. The steal and the bucket.
UMass contingent trying to get into it a little bit, Timmy.
Yeah, if I'm the Gophers, you just got to keep going to Murphy. He's just so hard to guard down low.
And there he is. That's a good job of guarding him because it's a charge. Chris Baldwin, great defense. And UMass has something working now with back-to-back buckets.
Yeah, you see Washington with the ill-advised pass and maybe a double dribble.
Absolutely a double dribble. I almost called the double dribble live, but then they didn't call it. UMass with a chance to tie it or take the lead. I see a lot of guys just not ready for passes on both sides of the court here. Baldwin, 15-footer rattles home, and we're tied at 6.
You know, if you're a UMass fan, and when you were trailing 6-0, Chris, it could have been 14-0. It could have been 18-0. The Minutemen came out flat. Gophers didn't take advantage of it. Now you give a team like this confidence looking for an upset. This has got to be Richard Pitino's biggest fear.
Amir Coffey had some contact, didn't get the call. Pierre misses, and boy, look how high Jordan Murphy gets up there for that rebound. Averaging 12 a game, 7th in the country, and McLean almost had another steal, an easy path to the hoop. But they get him for the reach-in foul. 6-6 early. That's a look at Matt McCall, 35-year-old first-year head coach for UMass. 51-19 record overall. He had 2 great seasons at Chattanooga. Kanade, no. And still, Minnesota's only points of this game have come from Jordan Murphy. 6-6, 8 minutes gone by now. A bizarre start to this one. Something you could expect on Black Friday, a noon Eastern tip. Kanade the steal. This is Coffey. Nice job being patient and just finding his way to the hoop.
He's such a talented scorer at 6'8" last year. He was on the Big Ten all-freshman team, and Richard Pitino wants him to be aggressive from the word go each and every game.
Here comes Washington. The bounce to Mason, who lays it in.
Mason was first team all Big Ten last year, and when the game gets chaotic like this, I really want to see Mason get the ball and kind of settle this Gophers team down from an offensive standpoint.
Pierre walked, and that'll bring us to the under 12 timeout. But if you're new to this Facebook thing, we don't take commercial breaks. No commercials here on Facebook. We stay with you the whole way. 10-6. Richard Pitino's Minnesota Golden Gophers out to the early 4-point lead with 11:07 to go in the first half as we send it to the third member of our crew, Kristen Balboni, courtside.
Hey guys, well, UMass is making the most of this trip. On Wednesday night, they went to a Knicks game, and from what I saw, they had some pretty sweet seats. They got in early for the night, and they said that Coach McCall just really wanted to take some time, you know, to let them enjoy the city. It was good to get out of the hotels a little bit. Also, some of them went on the subway. That was the first time for quite a few of them, and they just said that they're really, you know, just getting that full New York experience, and it was very cool for them to be able to come in a night early and have that time to just get acquainted to the city before they step into this tournament. I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Tim, you know a lot about this city.
Yeah, you go into the world's most famous arena, which is Madison Square Garden.
Not the Steinberg Wellness Center?
Not the Steinberg Wellness Center. Yeah, yeah. No disrespect to the Steinberg family.
The world's most famous wellness center.
Or their lack of wellness around this area. But you get a chance to kind of soak up that energy in New York City. And Matt McCall's a young coach. He's an energetic coach. When you step into that famed arena where, you know, I spent 1 year at St. John's, watched a lot of games there, didn't get a ton of playing time. But even just warming up in that gym, you look up at the banners, there's just such a spectacular energy there in New York City. And I don't think there's been a lack of energy here in Brooklyn. Even though the score may not be pretty and the game hasn't been pretty, guys are definitely working hard, flying all over the court. You almost need to take a deep breath and just relax from an offensive standpoint. If you're UMass, you like the helter-skelterness. Anything unusual when you're a 15-point underdog is going to be a good thing. It's going to give you a chance to stay in the game and maybe pull off the massive upset.
UMass 3-1 on the season. The one loss coming to Harvard in overtime on a last-second three. Coffey 4-3.
Amir Coffey for 3.
He's just got one of those easy left-handed strokes that seems like every time he shoots it, it's going to go in.
Minnesota has 3 lefties on the team. Left-handed shooters just look better.
Do you feel the same way about golfers?
Yes. And quarterbacks. Pierre, a 3-point attempt. That's short. Almost a tip in from McLean. He pokes it out. And that's going to be a foul on UMass, I believe, or is it going on Minnesota? You could call it on either, because both players were going for the ball. I think they're going to get Minnesota for that. That's Amir Coffey, and that's his second foul.
Returning for UMass, number 42, Rayshawn Miller.
And that's an unfortunate one because, like you said, Chris, it was kind of a bang-bang play, and Coffey, wrong place at the wrong time. Gophers have done a nice job so far, and Luwan Pipkins coming off a 34-point game against Niagara. He's the only UMass player that's averaging double figures.
McLean too strong on the floater, and here come the Gophers again. Washington, the freshman from Harlem, settling things down, running the offense. And there's the big man, Reggie Lynch, leading the country in blocks. He can play a little low, though, too, averaging 12 points a game. Pierre, no one stepped in to help as Lynch goes down. (15-8) Minnesota on top of UMass. The Gophers jumped out to a 6-0 lead on 3 buckets from Jordan Murphy. UMass came back to tie it at 6. Minnesota responded. And now UMass just trying to hang in this basketball game. Been very choppy on the offensive end. It's a team that's averaging 82 points a game.
Yeah, if you're UMass, if it's not going to be Pipkins, then I think Holloway's got to get a touch each and every time down.
Pierre to Pipkins, and Luwan Pipkins knocks it down. And Unique McLean has done that a couple of times as Michael Hurt gets it poked away, and that could have been worse for Minnesota. In the NBA, they might have called that a clear path foul. Nobody challenging for the bonus as of yet. Minnesota with 4 team fouls, UMass with 3.
You know, we're 11+ minutes into this game, Chris. UMass believes that they can play with Minnesota. You know, the Gophers didn't just take them out of this game early. They've let them kind of hang around, and you let these teams hang around. There's a confidence that grows amongst college players.
Pipkins feeds it down low, and Rashawn Holloway turns it over. Offensive foul. That's a big man, 6'11", 310.
And watch where he ducks the shoulder, right there. I didn't love the call. Now, he's a big guy. He's going to throw guys out of the way just because he's big, but I don't think that he intentionally cleared out space there. Lynch is not a small guy himself.
And Lynch could have been called for over the back there, but got the offensive rebound, and a foul is called on Pipkins. 5th team foul on UMass. So still no free throws. 15-11, Minnesota with the lead. 8:19 to play in a sloppy first half. 3 from the corner, and Jameer Harris now 8 of 14 from 3-point range on the season. Pipkins +1.
Golden Gophers foul assessed to number 14.
I love this kid out of Chicago. Only 5'11", but just has a way of getting buckets and able to split the defense, take the contact, and get to the free throw line. His last game against Niagara, he was 7 of 10 from 3. He hung 34 points on the Purple Eagles. He's the only player for UMass averaging in double figures, just over 22 points a game.
Hit a game-tying 3 against Harvard to send it to overtime when Harvard returned the favor with a last-second 3 in OT to hand UMass its only loss of the season to this point. There's another steal. Pipkins pull up for 3. Short. And Washington runs it down for Minnesota. He's looking to push. Look at the move, the pass, Hurt the 3, got it.
Oh, baby, Isaiah Washington out in transition. You can see his eyes were as big as basketballs. He's able to make a play and find his shooter in the corner.
Anderson, a couple spins, the extra pass, but it was one too many because it's a travel on Rayshawn Miller as we have a timeout on the court. Minnesota with a 21-14 lead, 7:24 to play in the opening half here on Facebook. Again, no commercials, plenty of Kristen Balboni.
Wanted to let you know that we are here at LIU Brooklyn, so I've been monitoring the comments, and everyone is asking, where are you guys? As we said, this is the Barclays Center Classic presented by Continental Tire. We are here at LIU Brooklyn, as Chris mentioned earlier, because of a scheduling conflict with Barclays, but we will all be at Barclays tomorrow. It's going to be a really fun time. We got a great lineup of games. Obviously, you're watching Minnesota versus UMass right now. A little bit later, we are all going to be here for BYU versus Alabama, and we hope that you'll join us for that. Tomorrow, UMass versus BYU at 2:30 Eastern, followed by a really big game, guys. Alabama versus Minnesota. That's going to be a fun one. Can't wait for that. Tim, Chris?
Yeah, top 25 matchup between those two teams. We'll see what they do today. Of course, Minnesota taking on UMass right now, and Alabama has to play BYU. But tomorrow, the main event, and they saved the best for last, is going to be a fun one. Tim, what do you see in that game? I know we're looking ahead, but when Minnesota takes on Alabama, because both of these teams have a lot of talent. Alabama's really young, but really good.
Well, Colin Sexton may be a top 3 freshman in all the land, and there are some outstanding freshmen this year, but him going up against a guy like Nate Mason, really a senior versus a freshman, that's going to be an exciting matchup. Alabama really was tested by UT Arlington, and last out went right down to the wire. That was a 1-point win. They're going to take on a BYU team who is going to want to spread you out, shoot the 3. They can be explosive from an offensive standpoint. If I'm Minnesota, I'm more worried about UMass right now. It's been a sloppy start for the Gophers. Just want the ball in number 3's hands as often as possible. Jordan Murphy just makes things happen.
7-point lead for the Golden Gophers. Murphy, 4-3.
That's his first 3 all year. That's incredible. You go out and you average over 23 points a game, and you're making nothing but 2s and layups. When he adds that dimension to his game, something he's worked on in the offseason, look out. He reminds me a lot of Draymond Green. Great motor, high basketball IQ, just got a great sense for the ball.
It'll go back to Minnesota. I haven't seen him kick a guy yet, though, Tim.
No, that's something you want to avoid. But watch Murphy step into that. Top of the key 3. Shot that one with confidence. Chris, where would Minnesota be without Murphy in this game? He got them off, had their first 6 points when it was ugly to start.
Mason to the cup. Minnesota's up a dozen, largest lead of the game, and UMass better find something on offense quick, or this one could get out of hand. Pipkins gets the screen, tries to split the double team, loses it on the deck. And possession arrow is pointing UMass's way. It is a jump ball. It will stay with the UMass Minutemen.
A great job there of kind of faking the handoff. Mason's able to turn the corner. That's one of those where you say, hey, take it, take it, take it, and then you just keep it yourself. And the senior from Georgia, what an outstanding year he had last year when he was first team All Big Ten. He was really the extension of Richard Pitino on the floor, gets him into their offense. Coach has got full belief that this could be the leader of a team that I believe could go out and win the Big Ten this year. Gopher fans, am I crazy? Is this a year Minnesota does it and wins the Big Ten Conference?
After the first 5 games, I don't see why not. Unique McLean gets it blocked by Lynch. The nation's leader in blocks was having none of that. And on the other end, McBrayer off the glass. Defense to offense. Minnesota's done it like that for much of this season. You just do not go inside on the Gophers and have an easy time of it. It's going the other way. Offensive foul on Unique McLean. He was trying to put the big man on a poster.
You gotta love the effort there by Jordan Murphy. Hey, you average over 5 blocks a game. You're gonna get dunked on once in a while, but I love the energy. I love the effort. Try to go make a play, and then McBrayer at the other end, the lefty, he's able to get to the basket and score. Minnesota right now, it took them a while, Chris, to get them going, but a 10-1 run has them leading by 14.
Murphy backing his man down, fading away, and he's got all the moves in double digits for the Golden Gophers.
Well, they can score in bunches, can't they, Chris?
Minnesota again came in averaging 95 points a game. So to beat this team, not only are you going to have to score some points, but you're going to have to play some defense. And Matt McCall's team a little overmatched at this point, and probably for much of this season. They have 5 players sitting out due to either medical reasons or transfer reasons. They had 7 players that left the program after the firing of Derek Kellogg after 9 seasons. A little ironic, Kellogg is now the head coach here at LIU Brooklyn, the gym we're playing in today. There's a steal. Gophers have the numbers. Nate Mason takes it himself. And a timeout. UMass. 32-14. Minnesota has come to play. And this will be an official timeout, with the timeout coming so close to the under 4 media timeout. Again, this is not a tournament. This Barclays Center Classic presented by Continental Tire, it's just a round robin. So no matter what happens in this game today, Minnesota is going to play Alabama tomorrow. UMass is going to play BYU tomorrow. Again, the hashtag is hashtag Min versus UMass, MINN versus UMass. Kristen?
Yeah, hey Chris, Tim, and everybody at home, keep those comments coming with that hashtag. I'm looking at them, but I want to tell all of you guys about a very cool friendship that I didn't know about before coming here. Coach Pitino from Minnesota and Coach McCall from UMass are actually good friends, guys. Now, they were both assistant coaches at Billy Donovan. Actually, Coach McCall replaced Coach Pitino, but Coach Pitino told me yesterday that they were good friends before. You see them both right there. They were good friends before, and Coach Pitino told me that he is very excited about the opportunity to coach against his friend. I thought that was pretty nice.
Hey, here's something that's not nice. I get a chance to call somebody out.
What do we got?
Well, I got a guy on Facebook, Don, saying one-man fast break does not equal numbers. Get a clue.
Oh, Don,
It was a
come on.
3-on-1. They just didn't wait. And there's the big Pitino. Rick Pitino wearing the Minnesota colors.
There he is. We heard that he was going to be here, and I think he's going to be there tomorrow as well throughout the entire Barclays Center Classic.
So we look at the Patinos, we talk about some of the best father-son coaching duos maybe in all college basketball history. Obviously, Rick, a Hall of Famer, and Richard, who it hasn't all been just peaks up there in the Twin Cities. He's had some valleys, some rough seasons, and now he's got a squad that I believe can compete for a Big Ten championship. And just watching them over the last 4+ minutes of this game and reading your comments on Facebook saying that we have the best starting 5 in the Big Ten, I think that's pretty true.
Yeah, I don't know how you can really argue against that at this point. And they might have one of the best in the country. You mentioned the Valleys. They were 8-23 a couple seasons ago, were these Gophers. Well, they've got a team that should compete for a Big Ten championship, and I don't see why they can't have Final Four aspirations. All Gophers in the first half of this game as we tick under 4 minutes to play in the first half. The first of 2 games here at the Steinberg Wellness Center. That's a nice move from Rashawn Holloway.
Holloway's got exceptional footwork for a man that's 6'10", over 300 pounds, and that time got the best of Lynch, but Lynch has done a nice job holding his own there in the post.
Dupree McBrayer. He got knocked down and knocked it down.
Now McBrayer's from the 718. That's Queens' area code. And to bury a shot, you could tell he's trying to be aggressive offensively in front of his friends and family. That was a big-time move.
Ten on the shot clock for Luan Pipkins. Into the corner, Pierre rattles home a three.
Shane pipes in on Facebook and says Rick Pitino is a UMass alum. Also played his high school basketball, Rick did, at St. Dominic on Long Island. So strong New York roots to come back home and obviously to support his son. They're going to go the other way there. That was an easy call. Extend that arm right in front of the official. Anderson takes the hit. But I expect if you're a Gophers fan, you're going to be seeing Rick Pitino had a lot of games up there. This is going to be an exciting time of year, not only for Minnesota, but their fans in that city to rally around this team.
After the game tomorrow against Alabama, they go home to face Miami in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, a Miami team that's in the top 15 as well. Air ball from Anderson. Take a look at the last bucket from UMass. Just took a little bit long to develop, Tim. A little bit too long.
I like their patience between Murphy and Lynch. They never look like they're rushing on the offensive end.
3 on the shot clock. McBrayer's got to do something. That did not draw iron. So it's a shot clock violation. Active. 16-point lead to see if UMass can make a little bit of a run going into halftime to make this a game. Pipkins, 10 on the shot clock. Great defense from the Golden Gophers, and here they come 2-on-1 the other way. Murphy looking for the lob. Miller said, nobody's going to guard me, I'll take it. And it's way too strong. 18-point lead for the Gophers coming up on a minute to play first half. Lynch gets it blocked, but they're going to get the foul on Holloway. And we'll have free throws coming for Reggie Lynch.
Another UMass turnover, and guess who in the right place? Just throw it up! Murphy's able to finish. How about already this year? 2 times been named Big Ten Player of the Week. Averaging 23 points and 12 rebounds, and got a chance to talk to Jordan before the game, and what an outstanding young man. I said, I've watched a lot of basketball. I don't know how to describe your game. How would you describe it? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, you got to have someone that you look up to. He says, I love watching Draymond Green. So that's someone I really like to mimic my game after. And Draymond Green was a guy who didn't really shoot the 3 well. Murphy just made his first 3 in today's game. That was something that he worked on as a pro, but I see very similar instincts and basketball IQ in Murphy as I did in Draymond Green when he played at Michigan State. Both about 6'6".
And Draymond's making bank. He's got the rings too. Murphy, 3. That one not going to go. It's the top of the backboard.
He's got to shoot that. I know that's not really his game, but he's open. I think that's a good shot.
Shot clock is off after the made bucket. Miller knocking down the long 2, and Minnesota has the last shot in the first half.
Yeah, they're going to go high ball screen here and let Nate Mason make a play.
Mason gets to the hoop, and there's no help from UMass. 40-21, all Minnesota in the opening half against UMass. Golden Gophers 15-point favorites, number 14 in the country, and playing like it right now. They've got a lot of talent and quite a bit of experience as well for Richard Pitino. We will have no commercials at halftime, folks. We're staying with you the whole way. We can do whatever the heck we want. Keep the comments coming.
Steve
we'll
says
keep the
that
responses coming.
the Gophers ate all the right fixins, as Kristen had a report on their outstanding meal here in New York City, and they've come out with energy and effort, and the Gophers lead here at halftime. Kristen?
Hey, Coach, tough first half. What are you seeing from your guys that you liked, though?
Well, I thought, obviously when you turn the ball over against a talented team like Minnesota, it's going to be a long day. And I thought we had way too many turnovers, thought we shot too quick. We went on a run there. We had 3 stops in a row and didn't get enough stops, didn't string together enough stops. So we got to find some fight in this right now. This is really the first time all year we've been in a position like this. So we're going to find out a lot about our basketball team and see what we're made of.
Like you said, first time all year, so what's the message at halftime?
I think I got to be really upbeat, be positive, and tell these guys, listen, we can continue to fight. We get 20 minutes of basketball left to play, and, we got to come out here and throw a punch and see what we can do.
All right, thanks so much, Coach. All right, you guys, thank you for joining it. It is halftime, but we have no commercials, so we are going to send it to the studio for a little update.
I'm Tyler Jacobs here in the Stadium Studios. We'll get you back out to the second half of your game in just a moment. There were some great plays in college basketball this week. Here's a look at the top 5.
Yeah, that was a big play win. Assist deflection floor. Giddy Potts back in. Giddy Potts would be the one getting it done. We talked about staying away from deflections. That 1-3-1, they got the tip, and Potts with a big finish. Giddy off the bench, bag in the bucket. ISO for Carter here. Bagley, the two-handed finish, and a spin move and the dunk. You don't see a lot of ISO plays in college.
Pass back from McLean. Tate stole it, layup blocked. Going back to the rim was Khalif Tate, and unique McLean just denied him and blocked the ball out of bounds. It'll stay with Niagara when we come back.
They're trying to get it inside to him, aren't they?
That was a little frustration from wanting the ball. Oh my God.
We've seen the ball being taken from him a number of times. He only put it down for 2 good.
Oh my, Konate is able to meet Ogalu at the rim. My, oh my, Ogalu came soaring in. What a block by Konate.
Stadium is your new national sports network, the only 24/7 network available on both television and digital devices without a cable subscription. Check your local television listings or go to watchstadium.com and click where to watch. Stadium, welcome to the game.
Hey guys, it's halftime, but as we said, we have no commercials, so instead of doing that, we are going to talk to some very awesome Minnesota fans who, now are you based at, first of all, what's your name?
Amy, go Ben.
Judy. Now, are you guys live in New York? Is that what it is, or did you travel?
We flew in this morning to watch the game today and tomorrow. So,
yes, we partly are here. We love the Gophers, but we both were Reggie Lynch's teachers in elementary school.
Is that
third grade?
Is that right? Now, are you here specifically to see Reggie, or do you travel? Did you travel before Reggie started playing as well?
No, we came on a charter.
We've been Gopher fans for a long time.
That's no kidding. About how many away games do you get to?
Mainly home games.
Yeah. So this is a big experience for you guys. What do you think about your team being ranked so high in the job that Coach Pitino has done?
Oh, I'm thrilled with Pitino, and I'm thrilled with the whole team, the effort. They're fantastic. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, they've really worked hard to get to where they are. We're all proud of them.
Now, as Reggie Lynch's former teachers, how do you think he's doing? Are you pretty proud?
Yes, that block was great on this end.
Did you teach him that?
I think I did, but a great kid and a great basketball player.
Well, you guys, I just wanted to let you know that we are broadcasting this game live on Facebook, so everyone is writing it in the comments, and that's where we are showing this interview right now. The hashtag is Min versus UMass. We want to keep those coming. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate the time. We'll go check back in with you guys a little bit later. All right, thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, both teams that are playing right now have done a lot of construction over the summer. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how they're improving their facilities. I want to start with UMass. At the Mullen Center over the summer, they put up these really awesome LED TVs. I know the UMass fans, I would love to hear from you on Facebook what you think about them. There's a center hung, and then there are two sides center hungs. They're pretty sweet. We've got some video footage to show you. Let's take a look at it right now. Well, that's the improvements at UMass, which seem pretty awesome. Minnesota, actually, you guys, is doing a brand new basketball center. Let me make sure I've got all these figures right. So in 2018, the men's basketball team are shifting its offices, practice court, locker room, weight room, and more to the newly completed Charlie and Kathy Cunningham Basketball Development Center. You guys, I know all of the Minnesota fans know a lot about this. They're spending $166 million on it, and it looks pretty cool. Coach Pitino actually gave the fans his thoughts on the facility and just what it's going to mean to the Gophers basketball team. Take a look at that, guys.
We're going to talk about your practice facility in a minute because I know that's been important to both men's and women's basketball, but just the overall Land O'Lakes portion of it, the Center for Excellence, the training table, the academic center, everything in one place. What will that mean?
I think what's unbelievable is if you walk upstairs to the Land O'Lakes Center and you have an unbelievable view of downtown Minneapolis, and it's symbolic in a way because you see these high rises, you see all these great opportunities for these student athletes, and that's really what it's all about. You know, certainly we have to win and we've got to compete at the highest level, but we want our student athletes to grow. And whenever they're done playing basketball, specifically for us, we've got to do everything in our power to get them a job, an opportunity outside of basketball. And we've got that. We have their own center dedicated solely for that, which is really, really unique. I think also having a cafeteria almost solely for all the student athletes is perfect in so many ways because we sometimes live in our own little bubble.
Right.
And now we can have all of our student athletes mingle together, talk to each other, socialize, get to know each other. It just completes the whole student athlete experience.
With the Cunningham Basketball Center, courts for men's and women's basketball, I think a court and a half for both of you. But what will that mean? I know even Jordan Murphy has mentioned recently he's getting up late night shots, and anytime he can go here in the Bierman building where you guys kind of had your own area to our left here, but just the ability for your student athletes to be able to train and really do it on their own time even outside of when you're going to have them.
Well, I think logistically that was something that I sought out to do from day one, and I think we kind of made it happen a makeshift way.
Yeah.
But now with our own space, and not only that, but the amount of space that we have. I mean, we can do more shooting drills that can incorporate everybody that we haven't been able to do with the current gym, as well as, you know, it's like anything else. When you got something brand new, you want to be in it.
Yeah.
So if our guys are not in class, they should be in the gym. And they're going to want to use this, so I know they're excited about it.
Well, I've heard other places that have facilities, you basically say, we want our guys never to want to leave. We never want to give them a reason to go do something else, whether it's hang out back in their place, they can get their studying done here, they get their shots up, they get good meals. It seems like they're going to be able to do all of that.
Well, it's amazing in recruiting. When we bring recruits through, after we're done with the tour, all the parents kind of say the same thing. Well, they're like, well, either you're here, you're at class, or you're at your dorm.
They know where they are.
Because they can do everything in this building, besides obviously go to class. But you got academic support here, you've got food here, you've got your strength and conditioning, athletic medicine, and obviously the Land O'Lakes Center and all those things. So their day-to-day life, as much as it's going to help in recruiting for all sports, but the most important thing is the student-athlete's day-to-day life is going to get a lot better. And at the end of the day, it's about those guys, those girls, and the experience that they have.
Last thing, before we talk a little bit about your season so far, you had a game last night beating Niagara. Who is more excited, you think, to get into this building? The coaches, the players, recruits, or is it 33% of all of those?
I think it's everybody is fired up for it. You know, I think every time they walk by, I'll tell you who's not happy is the seniors.
Yeah.
They're getting jealous.
For sure.
You know, but I think that they're all fired up for it. You know, we walk by it all the time, and you see the progress, and you see the amount of hours that everybody's spending to put this together. So they want to be a part of it. So it's coming at a great time. I mean, we've got a good team. We've got a lot to be excited about. And then to kind of take the next step with our team, with our program, is huge because recruiting's going really, really well. Right. This obviously has a lot to do with it.
Wow, now that is a facility. I know all the Minnesota fans who are watching are going to be happy with that, and as Patino said, he's very happy with it. I like the hard hats, too. That's a good look. The hard hats are great. Also, guys, the hashtag is Men vs. UMass. I'm looking at all of your comments right now. Just wanted to read this one from Leslie K. Anderson. She says, I appreciate having the opportunity to watch Gopher men's basketball today. I'm impressed with the quality. I'm watching on my iPad. So just want to say thank you so much. We are checking in your comments. We are getting you in. We're going to do a little check-in to see where you're watching from a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. All right, Tim, Chris, I'm going to send it back over to my partners to talk a little about the first half and what we can see in the second.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much. We've got prime seats. Tim Doyle, Chris Hassel. Happy to be a part of this coverage today. Minnesota with the lead at halftime. 40-21 is the score. You were a little bit concerned the Gophers might come out flat. They didn't come out great, but UMass didn't score in the first 5 minutes of this game.
Well, Jordan Murphy had the first 6 points of the game, and I think he really set a tone from an offensive standpoint. So it's an early game. You're playing in an unusual venue, right? You expect to play in the Barclays Center. All of a sudden, you're at LIU Brooklyn. And once they were able to get it going from an offensive standpoint, they really flipped the switch. We talked about Jordan Murphy. He had a big first half, 13 points, 6 of 8 from the field. He stepped out. You got to love that effort right there.
Boy.
Reggie Lynch was just running him down. And Coffey didn't get a lot of minutes. We saw a lot of comments on Facebook. Where is Amir Coffey? He was out with 2 first-half fouls, so only played a handful of minutes the first half. But Reggie Lynch was on the floor. There's Coffey again, burying a 3. There's so many weapons for the Gophers. I would put their starting 5 up against, forget about the Big Ten, I would say almost any team in the country.
Hey, I've said that twice already. Are you just copying what I said?
Where do you think right now, if we had to seed them, you've watched a lot of college basketball, where do they fit as a tournament seed?
It's really early, but man, Minnesota looks legit, like a top 2 seed in my opinion. If they play to their potential, I don't see any reason that they can't challenge for that. Shooting 50% in the first half, 5 of 8 from 3. It's a team that can do just about everything. They can score inside, they can score out, and they can play defense.
And they've taken advantage of 10 turnovers for UMass. They've turned those turnovers into 19 points. They're outscoring the Minutemen in the paint 22-10. You know, when they're able to shoot it from 3, 5 of 8 they were in the first half, what that does to the rest of their perimeter, opening up driving lanes, allowing Lynch to operate down low as well as Murphy. They just have a lot of guys. They're not dependent on one guy to go out there and get you 25 points, like UMass does with Pipkins, and so many other college teams are so predictable on offense. They have a lot of different guys that could hurt you. And even though it wasn't necessarily pretty the first 8 minutes, the last 12, very impressive for the Gophers. That's why they have a 19-point lead.
Highest preseason ranking for Minnesota since 93-94. They're picked third in the Big Ten, but we've seen Purdue struggling the last couple of nights. Purdue's lost 2 in a row, and it might be Minnesota and Michigan State going back and forth for the Big Ten championship this season. Of course, there's some other teams out there that could compete. I know Northwestern is supposed to be good.
Listen to me. There's no other teams that are going to be able to compete with Minnesota or Michigan State. I've watched everybody in the league.
And this is from a Northwestern guy.
And Northwestern's been disappointing this year. It's not a bad loss they had to Creighton, but they got run out of the gym by Texas Tech. I think expectations there in Evanston were maybe a little too high after going to the tournament last year, knocking off Vandy in the first round. I've watched the Big Ten top to bottom. Now, that's not going to say that Minnesota's not going to lose a game here or there, whether they're on the road at a team like Michigan or at Maryland. Or you go through their schedule, there's going to be some losses sprinkled in there. As far as talent-wise, Michigan State, Minnesota right now on the same level. And that's an exciting time to be a Gophers fan.
And the Big Ten tournament is actually here in New York City this season, starting February the 28th. They'll also play Ohio State at Madison Square Garden January 20th. So this is the first of 3 trips to the 5 boroughs for the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
When you start looking at their roster, they got a lot of New York influence. A guy like Isaiah Washington is a playground legend.
He actually supplanted you in Harlem, didn't he?
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Minnesota, let's see if they go to Murphy early, get him going from an offensive standpoint.
Murphy with 13 points in the first half to lead all scorers as Minnesota has it to start the second half in a 40-21 lead. They've controlled this game throughout, jumping out to a 6-0 lead. UMass did tie it at 6, but Minnesota responded with a 7-0 run and have not looked back. Murphy off the dribble, maybe showing off, seeing what he can do here, showing the NBA scouts that maybe he can knock those down. He hit his first 3, missed his second attempt, and missed that one from 15 feet. Holloway may have gotten away with an up and down. Good defense from Minnesota. McBrayer, the lefty, for 3. I don't think he called it. I don't think he called it. It was right in front of us, but it still counts, Tim.
A lot of banks aren't open the day after Thanksgiving. A lot of people have off. So if you're off, you're enjoying this game, you're a Gophers fan, you got to like the outcome so far. This is the first time we've seen zone from them all game. And I think this is something that they're going to sprinkle in this game, really just to kind of work on it, work out some kinks for Richard Pitino.
They could maybe already start looking ahead to Alabama and be just fine in this one. Let's work on some things. Let's pretend Colin Sexton's out there. It's a 22-point lead for UMass, and Holloway is going to take a seat on the bench with 3 fouls.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they do go zone against a team like Alabama because they shoot it so well. John Petty buried 10 threes in a game this year. They're a squad that can really light it up. They made 15 threes earlier in the season against Alabama A&M. Alabama did.
Coffey's going to go to the free throw line. I want to invite all of you to send in some pictures. Just use the hashtag MINN versus UMass. That's Min versus UMass. Use that hashtag. Send us your pictures in the comment section. Show us how you're watching the game.
Jeremy chimes in and said the Gophers played zone for about 5 minutes in the first half. Jim said he's watching from Alaska. Jim, we appreciate you joining us.
And apparently watching it a little bit closer than Tim Doyle.
There's been a lot going on here in Brooklyn. You know that. I know that. Kristen knows that.
Oh, it's been fun. First of 2 games here today. Again, Alabama and BYU coming up next right here on Facebook.
But they're so long. This zone, big thing when you're playing zone, you got to have your arms out. You got to make that zone even bigger. You don't want to get lazy if you're Minnesota.
Mason tips it out. McBrayer's got it. He's looking to run. The bounce to Coffey, and Coffey with the left hand.
Yeah, if I'm sitting at the end of the Minnesota bench, start stretching out a little bit, get those calves loose, tie those shoes a little bit tighter, and the biggest thing is don't drink too much water. You don't want to overhydrate yourself, guys, that you're at the end of the bench, because I think you're going to be getting some quality playing time last 4 or 5 minutes of this game.
Don't drink too much water.
Yes.
I've never heard that one before. Double dribble on Anderson Jr. Kristen, we were told that you wanted to check in with us. I know we kind of startled you, but
no, that's okay. My cameraman and I were just chatting. I just wanted to let everyone know with that hashtag. We want to hear where you're watching from. That's what we want to know right now. We're going to read some of those at the next TV timeout.
It's Kristen Balboni. I'm Chris Hassel. Tim Doyle is with me, and that one is going to count for Amir Coffey. People were wondering where he was in the first half. Well, he had a little bit of foul trouble. Second half, he's come out strong.
Yeah, I like that the left-handed player there was able to turn right. Watch, everyone's going to sit on that right shoulder expecting a jump hook, and right there, able to turn baseline, use his body. That's 6'8", only a sophomore. Minnesota Mr. Basketball in high school. He was the highest-rated recruit to come to Minnesota since
Chris Humphreys,
who was married to
one of the Kardashians.
Ah, come on, and Kim
for a little while.
Yeah, well, a little bit shorter than your lovely 10-year marriage, Chris Hassel.
Still going strong.
When'd you get married? At 16?
22. Get married early out in Iowa. Lynch gets called for the foul.
It's nice they let you off the farm to broadcast these games.
Hey, they've got the barnyard there at Williams Arena, so be careful.
It's just the barn, by the way.
Well, the barnyard is the student section.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, that's true.
You fool.
Hey, I played there 3 times, Chris.
I'm
know
sure
how many losses?
3?
No, 0.
Wow.
Yeah, it's rare that I could say that.
McBrayer in and out.
Because I was talking to the Minnesota coaching staff, and Richard Pitino brought this up, because they've been really struggling guarding the 3. It's kind of an unusual stat. Teams this year are shooting 45% from 3 against the Gophers. And he said it's an easy place to shoot. And I said, you're right, coach. Never lost there.
Say hi to Trevor Jones, who's watching from Tim Doyle's mom's house. Thanks for using the hashtag. Things are getting loose here in the second half. It's a...
Try the veal. She makes an amazing veal.
That's a bucket and a foul. Malik Hines.
David says this is the best team since Bobby Jackson was leading the maroon and gold.
Now, but that team didn't actually exist, though, right?
According to their records, they did not exist. A good move here, good spin on Lynch. Not an easy guy to score on. Up and under. See join the conversation, use that hashtag Min versus UMass, and we will read your comments on air as the Gophers open. In transition, excellent pass from Murphy to Lynch.
They're going to end up tearing down a goal at some point this season. Some big bodies who can really get up. There you go, Tim. You say get your hands up. He got his hands up and forced a turnover. Here comes Nate Mason. Offensive foul.
Bodies flying around like the Royal Rumble. No Hillbilly Jim there on the floor, but UMass players throwing their body around with no regard for human life.
And by the way, if you want to turn the comments off, I know a lot of you are asking about that and watching on Facebook for the very first time. Turn the comments off, you swipe to the right. Thanks for watching us here on Stadium, and Stadium brings you college basketball exclusively on Facebook.
Yeah, Yeah, guys, well, you mentioned how to turn the comments off, but the people I'm seeing are liking them. We asked you where you are watching from, and we got some pretty good responses. Drew from Cairo is chiming in, and guys, no surprise, there are a lot of people from Minnesota that are chiming in. Minneapolis, Fergus Falls. I've seen a lot of Fergus Falls. And let's see, here's my favorite one. He says, Bennett says, I'm watching from my couch, slowly dying from a cold and a lack of sleep in DC. I'm guessing Bennett had a good Thanksgiving minus the cold. Keep those comments coming, though. We really, really appreciate them using that hashtag Men versus UMass.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm checking out Russell here. He's watching this game from Poland. Russell, we appreciate you tuning in. If you're a Gophers fan, you're pretty happy. If you're not, we appreciate you tuning in if you're a UMass fan.
Hey, UMass is building for the future under the first-year head coach. Tough circumstances for Matt McCall. Of course, people familiar with UMass know all about the situation. They fired Derek Kellogg. They thought they had hired Winthrop head coach Pat Kelsey, but just moments before his introductory press conference, Kelsey decided to stay at Winthrop. So they went out to Chattanooga and got this young man, Matt McCall, who's actually friends with Richard Pitino. And he's trying to turn this program around, a program that started 10-3 last season, but were 5-15 in their last 20 games, and really short-handed this season with 7 players leaving the program and 5 players having to sit out due to medical or transfer reasons. They had Jalen Brantley, a transfer from Maryland that was supposed to really help them this season, but Brantley, heartbreakingly, had to end his career because of a heart condition that they found out just before the season. So it's going to be some growing pains for this UMass team. But certainly reinforcements on the way beginning next season as Murphy finds his way back to the free throw line.
UMass foul charge, number 5, Chris Baldwin, his first, team's fourth.
Matt wants to know why the games are being played in New York. Tim?
Do you have a good answer for that,
Well,
Chris?
I do, but I thought maybe I could challenge you. The reason is because this is the Barclays Center Classic presented by Continental Tire. These games were supposed to be played at the Barclays Center, but due to a scheduling conflict with the Brooklyn Nets, and they have the Islanders there too now, college basketball games there today. These games taking place at LIU Brooklyn, and then tomorrow's games, and UMass plays BYU tomorrow, Minnesota plays Alabama tomorrow. Those games will be played at the Barclays Center. And then as soon as that Minnesota-Alabama game ends, Tim, they're clearing the floor because Jay-Z's coming in for a series of concerts. I don't know that Jay-Z's ever played here at the Steinberg Wellness Center. Not a bad seat in the house, though. Coffee gonna take it himself. Put a little English on it, couldn't get the roll. He'll go to the free throw line.
Yeah, UMass has been living the hard knock life today against Minnesota. They got off to a decent start. This was a 5-point game early in the first half, but I love that spurtability. You know, we see it so much at the next level, whether it's the Warriors, they can go on such a quick run, the Rockets, the Cavaliers, they can score in bunches. College teams, in my eyes, are more challenged in that way. Minnesota has that ability because they have so many different guys that can go out there and get buckets.
This is the next game we have for you today. Alabama taking on BYU. The Crimson Tide unbeaten. BYU 1 loss on the season. 2, UT Arlington, a team that darn near beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa on Tuesday night. Alabama surviving by 1 point. Alabama BYU coming up next. 30 minutes after this one ends, around 2:30 Eastern time, right here on Facebook. Lynch gets the feed. That one almost went up through the bottom of the hoop and came back down through.
That used to count in double dribble. You could make baskets like that.
That one actually does count. A 3 from the corner. Unique McLean.
That shows my age as well.
Back in the early 90s. It's a good Nintendo game.
Yeah, don't think Minnesota had a team. It's just New York, Los Angeles, Boston, and Chicago at that time on double dribble.
This one's coming back the other way. We're going to get Murphy inside with the push.
Minnesota foul charge.
In my eyes right now, when I look across the college basketball landscape, Duke was so impressive with that win over Michigan State. Grayson Allen with the big performance, 37 points. I do feel like they are the clear-cut favorite. And then that next group, it was supposed to be Arizona.
They got beat.
It was supposed to be Michigan State.
And they got beat.
So I start looking at this Minnesota team, and I go, why not them? Why aren't they a top 5, a top 10 team? I've really been impressed with Wichita State. They fell to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a team that's been around the block, a veteran squad. As UMass trying to make this a game, cuts it to 20. Matt McCall's up. He wants his guys to play with some energy. But I look at this Gophers team, and expectation should be to go to the Final Four this year. Good blend of youth as well as experience.
You think the expectation should be a Final Four?
Yes.
So Elite 8, disappointing season.
Elite 8, good year. Final Four, great year.
Only one NCAA tournament win since that 1997 team. That was in the first round back in 2013. Kristen?
Hey guys, yep, just keep on reading these comments. Louis is checking in from Northfield. He says, this is awesome. I'm watching on Facebook from Northfield. Steve is watching from Gilbert, Arizona. So we appreciate all your shout outs there, guys. Here's what I want to hear from everyone in the comments next. Let us know your question for our two guys on the broadcast right now. Let's ask them some questions. Let's see what they got. I have a question for you two. How do you both get your hair looking so good?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's really good, both of you, even with those headsets on.
Tim has, let's see.
Look at it there. Oh, yeah.
Tim, let's see. That's a slick back look from Tim. You have more, I don't know, more volume slick.
Is that hairspray, Tim?
Now, I got smoked at my last haircut, and I don't mean I was drinking anything. I mean, they just, it was brutal. So I moved from Connecticut to Florida, and I cannot find a good barber.
Well, you're in the Fort Lauderdale neighborhood, right? So ask Facebook out there. There's got to be someone who lives in that Fort Lauderdale neighborhood, because you'll pay more than $15. I know the type of salary you're making nowadays.
Yeah, I will pay a little bit more than 15, but
because that's very similar to like the boys' regular haircut. I think we need a little bit longer.
I did get the hot towel shave. It's good hair, Tim.
Were you watching Teen Wolf or something while you were getting the haircut?
Thanks for dressing up today, by the way. 20-point lead for Minnesota.
Hey, it's casual. They said, wear something you would go to a game in. And I would not go to a game in that sweater that you're wearing, Chris, just being honest.
They told us we can say whatever the heck we want on Facebook, so be careful. Murphy, the putback. It's a 22-point lead for the Golden Gophers.
Just happy you have a shirt on. It's our last trip to Nashville. Oh, good move.
Holloway scores it.
Good. There seems to be a little bit of a bounce right now, and UMass is not going to win this game. I hate to break that to anybody. But Matt McCall wants to see some energy and effort, and now they're starting to play like that. It was good offensive possession there. Defensively, you could just sense that, and that's one of the fun parts about being at a game live, is you get a feel for when a team is kind of beaming with confidence. Not that momentum's completely going to shift to their side, but when you have a young team like you talked about, Chris, you want to have moments, whether it's 4 minutes in a game, whether it's a half, especially against a top 25 team like Minnesota. And I think we're in the midst of watching this right now for UMass.
Pipkins gets it and gets a timeout with 12:04 to go here in the ball game.
See, I can feel that. It's like psychic powers when you're at a game. You
exactly
can get
what it is.
When you're watching a game on the screen or whatever device you're streaming this Facebook game in, please use the hashtag Min versus UMass. But get out to some games this year. If these are your favorite teams, you're going to be in the Twin Cities, you're going to be up in the Boston area, go out and see UMass. Got a great young squad. And Minnesota's a team I really think can compete for a Big Ten championship. Kristen, what do you got for us?
Guys, I got some questions rolling in. The first one might be a little bit of a stumper from Kevin Gust. He wants to know, what's a Minuteman?
What is a Minuteman? Tim, do not answer that. Don't answer that.
All right, should I move on to the next one, guys?
I know the mascot Sam the Minuteman, but honestly,
come on, it goes back to the Revolutionary War. It was the guys that were able to kind of get their stuff together and fight for this great country that we live in. Didn't you pay attention in school? These are the people that built this country. Revolutionary War. It means they could get ready in a minute to serve this country.
I didn't go to Northwestern.
Oh, man. Didn't you learn it? They don't teach that at Northwestern. They teach stuff that you can't actually apply to life. You learn about the Minutemen when you're in grade school.
Next question.
All right, next question. That was great from Tim, by the way. Next question from Carson. He says, where do you guys see the Gophers in the NCAA tournament? Obviously, it is early, but we know those Gophers fans want to know.
Well, Tim sees them in the Final Four.
I think they have legit Final Four potential. I'm not just saying that. I think that they're athletic, they're deep. And what I love most about them is they're not predictable on offense. Sure, they come into this game averaging 95 points a game, but pick your poison.
I see another question.
Who's your best player? Is it Jordan Murphy? Sure, he's having the best year so far. But guys like Mason, Coffey, Washington can be explosive at times. They're deep and they're talented.
Now to the most important question from Ryan, who says, Chris Hassel, if Iowa State played Iowa in football tomorrow, who do you have?
They played earlier this year.
Iowa won in overtime, but if they played tomorrow, Iowa State would win. Sorry. I do know who's going to win the Minnesota-Wisconsin game tomorrow, by the way, too.
Come on, give Gopher fans some hope. It could be spoiler here. Somebody's rowing the boat up there.
Yeah, it's not going to be Minnesota.
I think you're right. I think Wisconsin should be in the top 4, but that's a different conversation for a different
They will
day.
be if they win out, no question about it. Little floater, little strong. That thing pinballs around. Murphy comes out of there with it. And he just wants to back the big guy down. Man, these two are going at it. You're not going to find many guys this season who are going to be able to push Lynch back. Going to make Lynch look tiny.
Holloway's lost 50 pounds. He's at 310 pounds. Murphy's going, what's going on here? I'm getting bodied.
Yeah, I said Lynch. I meant Murphy. They're all so good. It just all seems similar, right?
Returning for the Minutemen is 0, Malik Hines.
Big man checks out. 20-point lead for Minnesota, and again, it's a blowout, folks. Game's in hand. Keep the questions coming. Keep the comments coming. We can try to make things interesting. Now we won't bet with you or anything like that. We're not going to make it interesting that way. But
Chester throws a question out to Kristen. Have you ever been to Minnesota, Kristen, to Williams Arena? If not, you should. We will show you our Minnesota hospitality.
I have not been, but I would love to go. I would love to go see that new facility they're building.
I think Minnesota, the barn, is one of the most underrated buildings in the country.
It's outstanding.
I know people make fun of it because it's old. Oh, it's the barn. Those stadiums now are few and far between.
But you and I are old souls. You know, we got a chance to shoot around at Vanderbilt when we were down there roughly 2 weeks ago, and that's a special place too. Mm-hmm. Now everyone with their new arenas and stuff, it does lack that charm and the character. And when that place gets loud, as good as the college environment as there is.
Murphy gets cut off. Minnesota has had no problems with UMass in this game. Washington, a little bit short. And Anderson kicks it to the open man Pierre, who bricks that. Unique McLean had a big dunk early, then tried to get a second one. And Reggie Lynch turned him away. It's going to be quite the matchup tomorrow. Alabama's got some interesting fellows with the hair. And Minnesota's got some good hair, too. Between Lynch and Murphy.
Certainly a lot going on up there. Who started that? Was it Odell Beckham Jr.? Was it Lonzo Ball? The hairstyles are... I see Derrick Rose.
I think it was LeVar Ball like 25 years ago.
LeVar Ball.
I can't believe
I cannot believe you just gave him any credit.
I know. We're moving on.
Shame on you.
I'm sorry.
You owe me $5.
Just we'll edit that one out. Edit that out. Pipkins rattles home the second.
You know, I've been getting the boys' regular haircut since I'm 10 years old. Now everybody has the hipsters. Everybody wants the comb over. Part, whip over.
That's what do you call it? The boys' haircut?
The boys' regular. It's the same haircut you get when you're like 6.
I had the bowl cut when I was 6.
Oh boy.
Washington with the handles. And he just threw that off Murphy's face. A little bit too much dribbling there from the kid out of Harlem.
I love Isaiah Washington. He's a guy who I think is going to bring a lot of excitement. And his role this year, coming off the bench, he's going to be a spark plug. Gopher fans remember what he did in that Providence game. Without him, who knows if they go out and win. He can give them shots of life and at other times shots of agony. I'm sure Richard Pitino didn't love that last possession. Think about every day in practice. Gets to go up against a guy, Nate Mason, who's an older guy who's been around the block, an all-conference player. If he could stick it out up there in the Twin Cities, if it doesn't get too cold for him, he has Big Ten Player of the Year potential by the time he's a junior or senior. Gopher fans, am I crazy? Use the hashtag Minnesota versus UMass.
It's Min versus UMass. M-I-N-N.
Use Min versus UMass.
Not M-E-N, M-I-N-N. Pipkins gets that to go. It's a 19-point game. 9.5 to play. David wants to know how you think the Gophers are going to match up with Purdue or Michigan State. I think we've covered a lot of that.
I'll answer that question after who just got that bucket. That's right. I'm telling you. 2-3 years from now, Big Ten Player of the Year, Isaiah Washington. Book it. Richard Pitino loves this kid, and a year like this where I'm sure he's going to be frustrated coming off the bench and wanting more shots and wanting more minutes. These are years he's going to look back on and be like, wow, I really learned a lot going up against veterans every single day in practice. And I think Nate Mason is going to be a great role model / example for the young kid out of Harlem.
Yeah, tells the kid, listen, you got to play a little bit harder in practice. And he has. Richard Pitino certainly sensed that. He wasn't very happy with the way that Washington was practicing as a true freshman. But you got to have one of those veteran leaders. Pitino said, listen, I can tell him that 1,000 times, but when a veteran player tells him that, it changes everything.
Right.
3 on the shot clock. McLean gets it off. Way too strong. Washington pushing. Mason the pump fake. And Lynch the stuff.
Richie Lynch from Nate Mason.
Pipkins too strong, and boy, a mistimed jump from Hines, or else he would have had an easy tip in.
Watch change of pace right here. A little hesitation, and then Mason's able to find Lynch down low. You just wonder how long Richard Pitino's going to stay with his starters.
Especially with a game tomorrow.
Quick turnaround. I think you're going to start to see over the next 2 or 3 minutes the reserves getting some time here in Brooklyn. Because tomorrow's game is one that resonates in March. I think Alabama's a tournament team.
Oh, no question. I think Alabama, like Minnesota, can compete for a conference championship.
Ooh, I think that's a stretch, but they got a lot of talent, no doubt about it. They just have so many young guys.
That was a really good win Alabama had against UT Arlington. UT Arlington is one heck of a team.
Kenny Hervey's a guy who's a double-double machine down low, and Eric Neal, the senior, averaging double-digit assists.
They'll run away with the Sun Belt.
That's a team. When I watched them play Alabama the other night, I circled them and I went, okay, cannot wait to see them play in the tournament because they'll win their game. They'll get like a classic 5-12 matchup. Minnesota fans don't want to hear this, but I think UTA is going to be this year's Middle Tennessee.
Well, the two teams that we see next played UT Arlington. UT Arlington blew out BYU and almost beat Alabama at Alabama on Tuesday. 22-point lead for Richard Pitino and Minnesota with 7:36 to play as we send it to Kristen Balboni.
Guys, more questions coming in for you. I really like this segment. It's Ask Our Announcers. Chris Berg wants to know, does Minnesota have the bench to stay relevant? Especially the bigs. Haven't seen anything from Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Fitzgerald's had 3 different ACL surgeries. He's a big body, but if that's an Achilles heel, I think that is pretty safe to say. You agree with that, Chris?
Yes, and I think that is a legitimate question. Minnesota's deep, but it really is all about the starters. The starting 5 can be as good as anybody in the country, but you need more from Harris, Fitzgerald, Kanade, and Michael Hurt. I mean, there's some young guys in there that they really, really need something from, including Isaiah Washington.
Yeah, I know there's a big fear if Lynch gets in foul trouble, what they're able to do. But I think this squad, if healthy, if not in foul trouble, can beat anybody on any given night.
Andy, this one's for you, Tim. Andy wants to know, if you were the coach, how would you address Minnesota's perimeter defense?
And I think that question comes because teams are shooting 45% from three against the Gophers this year. It's so unusual for a team that has great length, great athletes. I think that's just been an aberration. I think teams look at Lynch down low and they go, we're not going to be able to drive, so we're going to have to shoot a lot of jumpers. And they've been able to make some early. I think that's a percentage that's going to drop as the season wears on, but it's a concern. I think today they've done a better job of chasing UMass off the three-point line, making guys drivers, funneling them into Lynch because he's such a dominant defender down low, blocking over 5 shots a game so far this year.
I don't think you were ever going to let me talk. By the time I got to talk, I was off camera.
Come on, put him back on camera. One shot on Chris Hassel. So selfish.
Hey, we've got people who had UMass plus 15 that want to see a little comeback here late in this game. 7.5 minutes to play. That one sounded good. And there's your boy Fitzgerald. See something from the bench.
Minnesota forcing UMass into 3 of 21 shooting today from 3. So that's going to help the percentage.
Yeah, coming into this thing, Minnesota was not good at all, defending the 3 at 45%. But I don't know how much of that is defense and how much of that is just UMass didn't have it today. And UMass isn't a great offensive team to begin with. I know they scored some points in the first few games of the season, but the competition hasn't been that good. It's a team that was picked 12th in the 14-team league A10, 14-team Atlantic 10, only ahead of Duquesne.
Duquesne, new coach there. Rhode Island, your heavy favorite in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, the Atlantic 10. They went out and had a solid win, knocking off Seton Hall. So it's a great win for the Atlantic 10 conference.
Lynch walks. Big games coming up for Minnesota. I mentioned that they have Miami in the non-conference of the Big Ten ACC Challenge, but this is what the conference slate looks like. They go to Northwestern, they go to Maryland, they go to Wisconsin and Purdue. It's rare that you see Northwestern in there as a big game.
Hey. It's a team on the rise, Chris Hassel. Many times they broke your heart as an Iowa Hawkeyes fan.
Minnesota also goes to Arkansas. They play Drake in the non-conference. And remember, I know Minnesota fans, some of them are aware, some of them are going to be surprised when they see the Big Ten Conference beginning play a week from Sunday. Minnesota hosts Rutgers and then they're at Nebraska. The Big Ten starting conference play really early because the conference tournament begins on February the 28th at Madison Square Garden.
As a New Yorker, I'm excited for the Big Ten to be at the Garden, but I'm sorry.
I don't like it.
When I think of Madison Square Garden conference tournaments, I've just always thought of the Big East. What a great tradition they had there, but that conference has changed. I think top to bottom, you could argue the Big East, maybe the strongest conference in all of college basketball. Not a lot of weak teams that this year in the Big East. I think the ACC could make a case. Tough to build a case so far for the Big Ten. They've had some disappointing losses.
It's been a tough start for the Big Ten outside of Minnesota. And they'll have a chance to really show that they're a top 10 team.
Penn State's had a pretty good start.
Tomorrow.
You know, they had a tough loss to Texas A&M recently. Do you think my expectations are too high for this Gophers team?
No, I don't. I think that Minnesota could be a Final Four team. I think Minnesota should be. If they beat Alabama, they're going to be top 10 next week. Having their way with UMass, as they should, and should compete for a Big Ten championship right there with Michigan State. But I don't like the Big Ten tournament at Madison Square Garden either. And I don't like that it starts in February. And the conference play is starting in a week. 25-point lead for the Minnesota Golden Gophers as they start to look ahead to tomorrow's game against Alabama. You see, I'm sure Richard Pitino and his staff will stick around and check out that game, scout. The Alabama Crimson Tide will be taking on BYU in a game we expect to be more competitive than this one. Well, BYU is a little short-handed as well, with one loss on the season, a lot like UMass. BYU, a team picked 3rd in the West Coast Conference. Alabama picked in the top 5 in the SEC. Pipkins almost gets a steal. McBrayer. Ooh, nice pass. And Lynch. I like McBrayer. He's smooth. Missed a couple of months this offseason with a leg injury. He's from here in Queens.
2 shots for Reggie Lynch.
Sammy wants to know how the heck you can call Minnesota a Final Four team when they haven't played anybody good. Well, they did win at Providence. Providence is pretty good.
Oh, you sent me that video how Providence knocked off Belmont.
Last second shot a couple of nights ago. Belmont's a good team.
Belmont's really solid. You know,
that's Providence's only loss of the season to Minnesota.
And that's going to end up being a solid win for Providence, knocking off Belmont, who's your clear-cut favorite in the Ohio Valley Conference.
And look, we're not saying Minnesota could make the Final Four because of what they've done to some overmatched competition this season. We're doing it based on the players that they have, what we know they did last season, and what we know they can do this season. It has nothing to do with who they play.
They got a bad matchup last year in the tournament.
Middle Tennessee State's won in back-to-back years. They beat Michigan State as a 15 seed a couple of seasons ago, and then beat Minnesota as a 12 seed.
You just saw them. Are they down this year?
They certainly don't look like the team that beat Minnesota in last year's tournament, but they do have some players, and I think they'll be just fine. Well-coached team down there in Murfreesboro.
They lost Reggie Upshaw, Ja'Cory Williams no longer there. That was an outstanding squad who ended Richard Pitino's run last year for the Gophers, but it's been all Minnesota here in Brooklyn. 3:48 left. Minnesota with a commanding 25-point lead. Kristen, what do you got for us?
Yeah, guys. Well, obviously, all of the teams in this tournament had their Thanksgiving meals on the road last night, as did we. But I got my hands on the Minnesota menu. I want to hear what you guys think and what everybody in the comments thinks. Here we go. Look at what we got, guys. We got shrimp cocktail to start it off. Then we went the traditional turkey and mashed potatoes, a little green bean casserole, some cornbread and sweet potatoes. Those would be my 2 favorites. Cranberry sauce, and for dessert, we have assorted holiday pies. Tim, no word on what those pies are, but I want to know, how do we feel about this Thanksgiving menu from the Minnesota Gophers?
As long as there's some pecan pie and some pumpkin pie in there.
I would think there would have to be, right?
I'm okay with the sweet potatoes because there were mashed potatoes as well.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, you're not a sweet potato only type of a guy.
I'm not a sweet potato person at all.
It's not really a holiday feast unless you have the awkward conversation with an aunt or uncle. Or I'm sure, why aren't you married? Why don't you have 3 kids instead of 2? It's always the badgering from the family that really makes it a complete holiday atmosphere.
And these guys didn't have the family. It's just the team as the family yesterday eating the Thanksgiving dinner. This is a couple of the shots. Now, I had pizza at a local Italian joint.
As did I. I had pizza as well.
Tim?
I slept in my race car bed at my beautiful home on Long Island. And
your parents' home?
Yeah, correct. My mom did my laundry last night, and she made amazing flapjacks this morning. So I've had
mention what you had yesterday for Thanksgiving feast.
Oh, just traditional.
Okay.
Cranberry, turkey.
Yeah, I don't do the cranberry sauce either.
I'm a huge stuffing guy.
Stuffing's good. Pamela wants the announcers to announce the game, so.
Sorry, Pamela.
Enough, Tim.
Let's get back to some hard-hitting analysis.
You're never out of it. If there's a 15-point jump shot.
Yeah, if Dan Cortez was out there and this was NBA, this is rock and jock.
Minnesota is going to move to 6-0 on the season. And get the first really big test tomorrow against Alabama. Wins for the Gophers over USC Upstate, Niagara, Western Carolina, Alabama A&M, Providence, and now UMass, as Baldwin gets called for the travel. This isn't Marcus Camby's UMass team, though.
I'm surprised that Murphy is out there. Are you?
At this point, yes.
No real point.
Maybe they want to try to get him Big Ten Player of the Week 3 straight weeks.
Well, I see he only has 8 rebounds according to my stats, so maybe they're trying to get him 2 more rebounds to pad those numbers.
Mark, our stat guy here, thinks Minnesota's the worst 6-0 team he's ever seen. Now, he doesn't have a microphone, so he can't explain why. I can tell you this. His kids went to Wisconsin, so that might have something to do with it.
There's another rebound for Murphy. One more, he's going to have a double-double.
Look at Murphy's step-back brick. Yeah, with a game tomorrow, it is a bit surprising that you're not taking, unless they just don't have a body to put out there, and I don't think that's the case. I'd get him as much rest as possible because they are going to need him tomorrow. That's going to be a really good game against Alabama. Unfortunately for Alabama fans and for fans of sports, it's at the same time as the Iron Bowl.
I like Alabama in that game. I know they're 3-point favorite, but Auburn's the hot team. Some say Auburn could get in with 2 losses, but I've learned a long time ago, you either roll Tide or you don't roll with anyone in that game. Murphy goes to the bench. Well-deserved rest.
I would go with Alabama in that game as well, but I think Auburn gets in with two losses if it beats Alabama and then Georgia again.
I agree with you, but then I feel like Alabama should not get in because their best win of the season is who? Mississippi State?
Yep.
Would not say their resume is that dandy.
If you're just joining us, Minnesota has controlled this thing throughout. Jumped out to a 6-0 lead on 3 baskets from Jordan Murphy. UMass tied it at 6, and then Minnesota went on a 7-0 run, and that was nothing but net but an air ball from Washington.
Washington's trying to do something here in his hometown, and
UMass has never challenged in this game, though. Minnesota, the heavy favorites coming in, and it was a cakewalk.
I think there's some good to take away from this game. Obviously,
for UMass?
UMass, I like that stretch between 12 minutes and 8 minutes. If you really want to
That's not very long of a stretch in a 40-minute game. Washington lays it in.
Isaiah Washington.
For Minnesota, did a great job of guarding the 3. That was really their biggest concern, was not allowing Pipkins to get rolling offensively, and they did a nice job of finding shooters and using that lane.
Less than a minute to play.
And again, we've got another ball game coming up for you right here on Facebook. Alabama and BYU coming up in about a half an hour. Baldwin hits the triple. And then tomorrow we head over to the Barclays Center. UMass will take on BYU at 2:30 Eastern. And then it's Minnesota and Alabama at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Washington went for the alley-oop to Kanade. Referee swallows the whistle, and why not? Kanade wasn't happy about that. Final 10 seconds of the ball game. Kristen will be speaking with the victorious Minnesota Golden Gophers in just a minute. It's a buzzer beater for UMass, but it's not nearly enough. 69-51, the Golden Gophers gets a 6-0 on the season with an easy victory over UMass out of the A-10. Again, we're going to find out a lot more about Minnesota tomorrow evening.
It was really that spurt at the end of the first half that took a 5-point game up to 20. Had a 19-point lead at halftime. I thought Jordan Murphy came out and set a tone, had the first 6 points of the game. It was sloppy early on. Minnesota's length, their athleticism, that starting 5 I said it before, I'll say it again, as good as anybody in college basketball, as the Gophers take care of business by 18. Kristen?
Yeah, Coach, dominant win from start to finish. What was the key for your team in keeping that lead the entire game?
Play great defense. I think they shot 32%. We rebounded the ball. I thought our intensity defensively, first half, was terrific. Offensively, we were sloppy towards the end, but we beat a really well-coached team, so I'm proud of our guys.
Anyone stand out to you that you were really impressed by? It seemed like a total team effort.
Yeah, I thought everybody was pretty good. I think our bench is going to have to catch up. Obviously, I had some guys in there at the end of the game where they got to get into the flow of things, but our starting five was very, very businesslike, and we needed them to be.
I noticed you got your family here visiting. That must be really nice for you.
It is, yeah. I mean, anytime they can come up, we got a lot of family in the Northeast. So for them to be behind the bench, be supportive. We got a great fan base. We had a lot of fans here, so I'm very appreciative of it.
Absolutely. I know it must be nice for you to have all these fans here. And one last question. You got Alabama tomorrow. What are you expecting from them?
I haven't watched one clip, so I focus totally on UMass. Now I'll turn the page. I know Avery's a terrific coach. They got really good young talent, so we got to be ready. I know they're a really big team and a very talented team.
All right, thanks, Coach. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
Send it back to you guys.
Kristen, thank you. Richard Pitino coaching in front of his dad, Rick Pitino, who is here today, likely going to be at Barclays Center tomorrow for the big game against Alabama. We will move on to our next game in just a little bit, but let's put a bow on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, taking it to UMass and moving to 6-0 on the season. Not much of a test, but you just see the talent that this Minnesota team has.
Yeah, I think that once they start giving the same energy on defense, then really the sky is the limit for them. They could go inside, they could go outside. You heard Coach Pitino there. Growing their bench might end up being their X factor and how far they go in March and if they're able to make a run. It's early on in the season. Guys have fresh legs. As the season wears on, being able to turn to your bench even just for a few minutes is going to be something that can make the difference, especially in a rugged Big Ten.
What do you think the biggest weakness is at this point for Minnesota?
I think if Lynch gets in foul trouble, what do you do then? Now, how do you kind of shift
young guys on that bench?
Yeah, that's if I'm a Gophers fan, that's what I'm looking at every single game. If Lynch gets in foul trouble, how do we make that adjustment? Because I love Jordan Murphy, but he's 6'6", and once you get in the Big Ten Conference, you got 6'10", 7-footers. You got some big, powerful teams. You look at Purdue, you look at Michigan State. They're going to try to bully Minnesota down low, but the bullying was done today by the Gophers. They took care of business by 18.
Lynch fouled out 8 times last season, but he's done a better job this season staying out of foul trouble. And no trouble in this one for the Golden Gophers, who beat UMass 69-51. Tomorrow, UMass BYU, Minnesota, Alabama. We'll take a break and be back for Alabama BYU in just a bit.